99.3 FM presented by St. Barnabas, 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and on our Facebook. And Tom is here. It's Teleforum. I'm Eddy Crow. I covered it.
That's it, Eddie.
Is that it? It's pretty much everything. Tom Young of First Consultants is my guest. And this show is getting so big at this point, our guests are bringing in guests. That's pretty good. Tom Young, the author of he's your financial coach, professional speaker. So I'm going to assume if you're bringing a guest in, it's a pretty good guest. Who have you got?
Absolutely. I'm Tom Young, folks, and the financial coach here on WBVP, WMBA. And I have a great show today for you. We're going to talk about the confiscation conspiracy theory. But I've got a gentleman I want to introduce, Mr. Leonard Rainier. Over the past 20 years, Leonard has studied the economic trends and shifts and the impact of government programs and regulations on the social fabric of our country. His research has resulted in bringing a new awareness to the financial challenges the average American faces. Leonard is considered an expert in communicating these challenges and believes with more information, people will make better life decisions. As the founder of the Wealth and Wisdom Institute, Leonard recognized the importance of education, discovery, and understanding. He has been involved in the financial services industry for over 30 years. He has served on the advisory committee at Wayne State University School of Business and School of Finance. He has spoken at the Federal Reserve of Chicago, Money Smart Week for 2 years. His discussion received the board's highest honors. He has also authored 7 books which reached the publisher's bestseller list. His discussion with political and financial leaders across the country have brought new insights and the need for education and financial clarity. Leonard believes knowledge is something to learn, but wisdom is the ability to apply the knowledge to your everyday life. Leonard, you've got a new subject that you've been talking about, hiddenomics. Tell us about hiddenomics.
Thank you, Tom. Hiddenomics is the ongoing examination of the challenges, myths, and realities that surround traditional planning financial services industry and their efforts to plan your financial future. These issues must be addressed, Tom, because in many cases they impact the financial planning results dramatically. And it's my belief that without this awareness, the information, and the knowledge, the ability to make good, sound financial decisions falls somewhere into the category of guesswork. And the problem is the vast majority of people are troubled and confused about the economy. They're bombarded by the media, bullied by salespeople, and bewildered by the millions of things they feel they need to know. And over the past several years, they've seen all the lessons they learned in their financial life hurt them, and they're trying to figure out what to do. Unfortunately, the people who are causing all of this angst in the society are the ones who create the most transfers of wealth in their lives. So I like opening up today and talking to people about what do you see, more importantly, what don't you see? What do you see in your financial life and what don't you see? Most accidents and unintended consequences are the results of things we don't see, not the things we do see. And the problem is the barriers in our lives are defined by knowing only what we know and seeing only what we see. So I think we got to slow the game down and discuss the things we don't see that will impact our lives tremendously.
You know, Leonard, that the story that I always share with people is the 100-man story. You remember, I'm not going to go to the story, but it just simply says, you know, over a person's lifetime, it's a 95% chance you're either going to be dead or dead broke, and less than a 5% chance you end up with any wherewithal. And that's been the discussion that I've had about the great confiscation. In your information you sent me, you mentioned about 9 elements, 9 challenges. I know the 5: risk, taxes, regulation, inflation, and depreciation of the money. But you mentioned 9 in your writings. Do you want to expand on that for me?
Yeah, not only do we face the core elements of risk, taxes, regulation, inflation, and depreciation of the dollar, every financial decision you made involves those 5 core elements. Those are hidden. They're not on the illustrations or the charts or the graphs. But every financial decision you make is going to be impacted by those 5 core elements. To give you an example, if you have a qualified plan, Did the qualified plan that you have today solve the problems of your risk, taxes, regulation, inflation, and depreciation of the dollar, or did I describe to you what it is? The second set of elements, the hiddenomics, comes in the form of a formula. And that formula is time times rate of return times monetary unit, or the dollar, equals accumulation. And Tom, we must understand that in that formula that they're using, if the formula is incorrect from the very beginning, how accurate is it going to be 10 to 15 to 20 years from now? The only formula that they use for the last 100 years is flawed. And it ends up systematically confiscating most of our money in the future. The only element in that formula of time times rate of return times monetary unit equals accumulation is time. It's the most only accurate thing, because rates of return fluctuate all over the place. The value of the dollar is sinking as we speak, and accumulation, that number they show you on all these graphs and charts, will be impacted by risk, taxes, regulation, inflation, depreciation of the dollar. So there are 9 of them. Actually, there's a 10th one, and that's the federal government.
It's interesting in what we're talking about, and I have really been pounding on the confiscation of our wealth because, before the 80s, financial planning really didn't come into play in America till the late 70s, early 1980s. And with all of the knowledge and the financial planners and all the things that you're talking about, why aren't people becoming better off today than they used to be?
Well, you would think that if financial planning was truly a science, no one would lose money, would they?
That's true.
And so we have to look at what is the problem, what is causing this. Well, the answer is everything we do in the financial services industry is centered around math. And math is a certainty. I mean, you when done properly, it's always correct. The problem is the elements that impact the math in the future will change everything dramatically. The math is going to be right. Can I give you a quick example?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's take somebody who has $300,000 in their IRA, and they're 45. They got 20 years left to save for their retirement. And let's say they got a 6.5% rate of return for the next 20 years. That would come out to almost $1 million at retirement. Well, that's terrific. I mean, when you started out 20 years ago, $1 million meant something. But now, here comes hiddenomics. The reality is that $1 million in 20 years later has depreciated 31%, according to the federal government. So you don't have $1 million of buying power. You've got $690,000 of buying power. That's a tremendous drop. Now the second problem comes in when you have to pay taxes on this. And let's say you're in a 25% tax bracket. You think they charge the taxes on the $1 million or the $690,000 of buying power? They charge the taxes on the $1 million, but it comes out of your buying power value in that day. So you end up with $440,000 of retirement buying power, which is not a 6.5% rate of return, but a 1.9% buying power rate of return over 20 years. That's where we're getting stuck.
Leonard, I want to ask you, why is hiddenomics not included in that formula? And is it an issue of people don't know any better, or we've been consciously misled by people that benefit by us being clueless?
Well, there's a conflict in the way the industry approaches the public. And I talk to people about this all the time. The conflict is this. The goal of the financial services industry and their profit center is to maintain the client's money for the longest period of time. The goal of the client is to achieve their financial goal in the least amount of time. You can listen to the industry. They talk about money under management and how much money they got. And the longer they have it, the bigger profit center they have. But the real goal should be for the client to achieve their financial goal, avoid the hiddenomics as much as possible. And it's going to come down to ownership, because ownership in the plan at the end of the day is everything. It's unthinkable. It's unthinkable that, if you end up in a nursing home stay, say, at 70, that the only things that are exempt that they don't take away from you here in the state of Michigan is $123,000 a house and a car. Everything else is non-exempt. Your retirement account is non-exempt. Your annuities are non-exempt. The cash values in life insurance are non-exempt. Your investments are non-exempt, meaning they can strip away those values simply because you have ownership problems. And the public doesn't know this. And this is what we call finishing the plan by the representative. They're so busy learning the illustration from the company and trying to input the math into your daily life to make it look good that they forget all of the elements that will change that math down the future.
It's interesting, Leonard, in all the years that we have known each other, and it's amazing. I don't understand how you have some of the insights that you have. Tell me a little bit about your history, how you came to be the Leonard Rainier that I know today.
Well, I got into the financial services industry over 30 years ago, and I really didn't want to get into it, but at that time, it was I had some friends in it, and they got me into it. But the unique thing was, I sat on the board at Wayne State University School of Business, School of Finance, and I started to question what traditional financial thinking was really pushing down the throat. Traditional financial thinking is what we learn from the home offices and the higher ups. Typical planning is the type of planning that the public gets from the agent. So I did a presentation on PBS about owning a home, and you addressed that a few weeks ago, Tom.
Yes.
Owning a home, and it went over really big, and the Federal Reserve gave me the highest reserve score that they could give. I started writing white papers, and the first book, Unintended Consequences, came out, and I'm just a regular guy here. I mean, we've sold over 1 million books of all the 6 books. So that moved me a little bit higher up in the university, and then they got me to speak in front of the Federal Reserve, and it went on from there. The 5 books on the publisher's bestsellers list have been rather unique because historically we have another one coming out in March talking about hiddenomics and its impact on everybody's financial lives. So it's been quite a ride.
I'm curious, Leonard, you being at Wayne State University, does the younger generation understand this better than my generation?
No, because it's not being taught. In the university setting, I was the only self-made person on that board, meaning I owned my own business. Everybody was out with Blue Cross or Merrill Lynch, or everybody else was belonged to a big conglomerate. I was the only self-made person on that board. And what I realized was that even back then, the university started to teach the kids what to think instead of how to think. And they could go out and get a job at a bank and everything else, but they couldn't tell you what 15% off a sale item was. So it's being able to apply that knowledge. And once you receive that knowledge, you have to be able to apply it to create wisdom in your life. The wisdom that we're trying to talk about here is, look, if you can avoid these core elements of risk, taxes, regulation, inflation, and depreciation of the dollar, your retirement account will be 30 to 40% larger without you taking any additional risk. But you have to redefine the planning process in your life. And we have to start thinking differently other than what you see on the commercials on TV. Remember, the commercials on the TV, that company's goal is to maintain your money for the longest period of time. Here's the funny thing. When I work with an investment company, I'm the only one at risk, and they're using my money. Mm-hmm. They have no skin in the game. I'm the one that's exposed.
Yeah.
Well, Leonard, it has been interesting. It has been great talking with you.
Leonard schooled me up.
Leonard is one of my mentors in my life, and I can say that. You allow me to say that, Leonard. We've known each other a long time, and you have really fixed thoughts in my mind about a lot of things. And we will talk again in the very near future. I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and all the blessings of the Lord above on you. So I will talk to you again soon. Any last words you want to say?
Tom, I just want to tell your listeners that your awareness is a gift to them, and it will change their lives. So I want to thank you for the time today.
You're welcome, Leonard. God bless, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Leonard. Okay, after the news, I'm going to ask you to break down the stuff that I just wrote down thinking I understood that Leonard said.
That's what it's all about. It's
we
about
do
the
that?
big confiscation.
All right, after the news, the big confiscation. This is on Beaver County Radio. This is also being live streamed on the Beaver County Radio Facebook. After the news, I'm going to ask you, what does that mean? What does this mean? Tom Young after news on Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
Hi, this is Tom Young from First Consultants, Inc. Have you ever heard the phrase, you can't take it with you when you die? Of course you have. Believe it or not, nothing can be further from the truth. Everyone has economic human life value. That value based on what we do and what we earn annually for a lifetime. We all know that the next generations of our family are going to need a tremendous amount of money to circumvent the government and the problems that they have left us for our future. Life insurance creates this money for pennies. Many times it can be created with no additional out-of-pocket cost. You see, you do take it with you. You take it away from the future generations of your family. Give us a call at 724-728-6820 for a complimentary 45-minute discussion, or visit our website, firstconsultantsinc.com, or tune into our monthly multimedia simulcast and Facebook live stream video on the third Tuesday of each month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
All advisory services are offered through Prosperity Economics Partners, LLC, a federally registered investment advisor. Prosperity Economics Partners, LLC is in no way affiliated with First Consultants, Inc., nor is First Consultants, Inc. a registered investment advisor.
Whatever temperatures this winter brings, your friendly and knowledgeable Bryant dealer is ready to help. Your dealer is committed to achieving a high level of training and skills, and backed by outstanding products from one of the industry's most trusted names. Whatever your heating needs, your local Bryant dealer will do whatever it takes for your family's comfort.
Schedule an appointment today by calling Beaver Valley Sheet Metal at 724-775-7300 or by visiting bvsm1.com. PA number 3285. Bryant, whatever it takes.
Are you in high school and thinking about your future, or know someone who is? Consider Geneva College. Geneva is a Christian college that prepares students for meaningful service and their life's work. Geneva has over 145 majors and programs, 18 varsity sports, 100 study abroad programs, and lots of club activities. And Beaver County scholarships help to make a Geneva education affordable. Learn more by visiting geneva.edu. That's geneva.edu.
Accidents happen. It's just a part of life. Fortunately, Medic Rescue is always close by, ready to provide vital emergency care when you need it. For over 40 years, Medic Rescue has been Beaver County's premier provider of emergency medical care and transport services. Our highly trained paramedics and emergency medical technicians can evaluate emergency situations quickly and accurately, so you get the professional, life-saving care that you need 365 days a year. When you invest in a Medic Rescue membership, you receive top-of-the-line unlimited emergency and medically necessary non-emergency ambulance transports with minimal out-of-pocket expenses. Don't wait another day to sign up for your Medic Rescue membership. Have peace of mind that when an emergency strikes, we'll be there. Become a member of Medic Rescue today. To learn more, call 724-728-3621. That's 724-728-3621. Medic Rescue. Caring for our community.
Beaver County Radio's news source. 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Frank Sparks.
Good morning. As today's forecast is calling for mostly sunny skies for this first day of winter. High of 43 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast coming up for you right after we have this look at news. Well, today is the first day of winter, and it is the winter solstice here in Beaver County as it arrives at 3:59 p.m. this afternoon. It also means today's the shortest day of the year. The sun rose at 7:42 a.m. this morning. It'll set at 4:57 p.m. The winter solstice is a point here in the northern hemisphere that the Earth is tilted the furthest away from the sun. In the southern hemisphere, this is the first day of summer and the longest day of the year. The solstice happens twice a year, and our next solstice, which will be the summer solstice, will be June the 21st of 2022. And yesterday on AM Beaver County, the city of Beaver Falls' new mayor-elect, Kenya Johns, joined Matt Durzik. Durzik asked Johns, what are your plans for the city as mayor of Beaver Falls?
I'm very realistic, something that you guys will get to know me. So I know that this isn't going to happen overnight because our relationships that got here didn't happen overnight. But I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to keep showing up even when residents decide that they're not going to show up. And I'm going to continue to be there, continue to be transparent, continue to be honest, continue to have opportunities for engagement. And I very much believe that the citizens want to work together.
Now, you can see Matt's entire interview with Johns by going to our website at beavercountyradio.com. Pennsylvania State Police in Beaver reporting that they filed theft charges against 45-year-old Sean Watkins from East Liverpool, Ohio, for theft after he took pictures for the Southside Little Rams football organization. Troopers say via release that Watkins took the photos in August for the organization, cashed the checks valued at $5,451, but never produced the final product as promised. Charges of theft were filed by troopers against Watkins at District Court 36304. Republican Senator Doug Mastriano said in appearances online over the weekend that he has reached the fundraising goal he set to formally become a candidate for governor of the state of Pennsylvania and is organizing an announcement rally January the 8th near his home in south central Pennsylvania. Mastriano is the third state senator to enter the double-digits deep Republican field to potentially succeed outgoing Governor Tom Wolf. On the Democratic side, State Attorney General Josh Shapiro has effectively cleared the primary field. Pennsylvania's online and retail sports books shattered the state's revenue record with nearly $85 million from more than $760 million in wagering in November, continuing an already substantial fall run of records. Online casinos remain nearly all-time highs as well, and the Pennsylvania market should remain hot as the weather grows colder, according to Play Pennsylvania, which tracks regulated online gaming and sports betting in the state. Pennsylvania's sports books handled $761.6 million in wagers in November. That's the second most ever for the state, according to official data released on Monday. November's wagers were up 54.8% from $491.9 million in November of 2020, and despite falling short of the record, $776.3 million set in October, betting volume in over the 30 days of November actually ticked up 25.4 million per day from 25 million in October. A committee investigating the January 6th U.S. Capitol insurrection has requested an interview and documents from Congressman Scott Perry of Pennsylvania. The Republican lawmaker is the first sitting member of Congress the panel has requested to speak with. The committee has requested that Perry provide information for its investigation surrounding his efforts to install former Department of Justice official Jeffrey Clark as the acting Attorney General. Investigators say Perry pushed the Justice Department to overturn the election and met with President Donald Trump ahead of the violent attack.
Here's the Beaver County forecast from 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and 99.3 FM.
Mostly sunny skies today with a high of 43 degrees, increasing clouds overnight with a low of 29. Partly sunny tomorrow with a high of 35. Thursday, partly sunny, high 41 degrees. Your Christmas Eve forecast, rain in the forecast, high of 50 degrees. And Christmas Day, a chance of showers as well with a high of 51 degrees. And on Sunday, partly sunny, high 44 degrees. That is a look at the news for now. I'm Frank Sparks, Beaver County Radio News, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, 1230 WBVP AM, 1460 WMBA AM, and beavercountyradio.com.
It is Teleforum. I'm Eddy Crow. This is being Facebook Live. This is being Facebook Live video stream. Used all the fancy terms because Absolutely. Tom is here. Tom Young of First Consultants is my guest. So you can listen on 99.3 FM presented by St. Barnabas. Listen on 1230 WBVP. Listen on 1460 WMBA. Live stream it on our website or watch it on Facebook. And there you are. And you can watch it on Tom's Facebook.
Absolutely.
You look good, man.
Hey.
Yeah, look all right.
Just a 72-year-old little kid.
I look worse, and I'm way behind in years. Don't ever. You can grow old as long as you don't grow up. You've got a shot. I want to go back to the first half hour.
Okay.
You had a guest. This is how smooth this show runs. Tom's my guest. Tom had his own guest. Leonard Rainier was our guest for the first half hour. And while you guys were talking, I was making notes.
Okay.
And I've got several different questions about several notes. Do you want to start, or you want me to?
No, that's fine. Go ahead and start. You know what? Before we start, we didn't do this at the beginning because of the guest.
Yeah,
But I want to offer our prayers
Thank
for everybody around the world. This China virus crap that's out there, and it doesn't seem to want to go away. And I believe what they're saying, it'll be variant after variant. So we're in for a long haul.
Well, they've got all of the Greek letters still yet, almost all of them yet to use.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
we need to pray for everybody, especially those who have lost loved ones. And the loved ones who have been lost, many of them died alone because people weren't allowed to even visit. So we pray the Lord would gather them into his arms and take them into his kingdom of heaven above. Amen.
Amen.
Go ahead.
I had it in my notes. We didn't start with the prayer because
Right.
you were talking to
So
Leonard.
right. That's why I wanted to get back to that. So
I asked him, and he gave me a brief answer, but I'd like your fleshed out thoughts.
okay.
He said kids aren't aware of this. People my generation aren't aware of this. How do you get people to go from, and I don't mean this word in a bad way, if you don't know, I consider that ignorant. I'm ignorant of being able to do surgery, all right? Ignorant is one thing. Have we been intentionally misled this entire time with those commercials about saving? And how did that happen? How do you have the ability, or how do you have the legal right to lie to people because you're better at math, or you spend more time at math than they do?
It's not an easy answer, Leonard.
Okay.
In my 45 years in the financial world, I eventually came to believe that all these initials after my name, I have taken all the general courses, the COU, CHFC,
The
RICP,
acronyms, yeah.
CSA, I've got all these things. So I've taken all the education of the industry. And the revelation that I've had in the last several years is that all of that education has one purpose: to teach advisors how to take your money from you. Remember, I always taught the 4 rules of the financial world. I want all your money, more ongoing, keep it forever, and give back as little as possible. So that is
And that's
what
something Leonard
agents
said.
and advisors are trained to do.
That's something Leonard said. If you've got $1 million in 30 years, when you need the $1 million, it's not $1 million purchasing power, but they're still going to get their cut of it, and they had it when it built up and was worth more the whole time.
Well, let me go back in time. Let's go back
All right.
to prior to 1913. Now, 1913 was a big year because that was the year the Federal Reserve was created in America.
All right.
Okay, the banking. Okay, right now the Federal Reserve. It is not federal in any way. It is not part of the government. It is not ruled by the government or overseen by the government.
Really?
That is private banks.
But it's the Federal
It's the
Reserve.
Federal Reserve, and
It's
they are the
not
people
federal.
that print money out of nothing.
Okay.
Now, let's go back to the turn of the last century prior to that, and I made a list last night. Let me read some names off to you. Now, these are people that were pretty well off in the early 1900s.
Which is
okay?
saying something. It wasn't easy to be pretty well
Right.
off, really.
Okay, so remember,
All right.
Federal Reserve, 1913.
Okay.
So Henry Frick, okay?
Yeah.
He sold Coke, not Coke to make steel. In other words, the
COKE.
Yeah, COKE.
Okay.
They used it to make steel. He sold that to Carnegie. In 1918, his wealth was $200 million. In 2017, that equaled $3.9 billion.
Good gig.
John D. Rockefeller,
Okay.
famous name. 1918, he was worth $1.2 billion. He was in oil. Today,
Standard
in
Oil, I think.
2017, that's the equivalent of $21 billion. Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie,
Yeah.
steel, 1918, $200 million. Today, $3.5 billion. Okay?
Good work.
William Rockefeller, the younger brother of J.D. Rockefeller,
Yeah.
$150 million in 1918. and 2.6 billion today. And I'm not gonna, but you get the idea. And here's Armin. He was in packing. John Armour.
Yeah.
Armour. You
Yeah.
know that company. Henry Ford Autos, Vanderbilt. Okay. Arthur Astor, Vincent Astor, Charles Schwab, J.P. Morgan, Eastman, cameras, okay, and DuPont, gunpowder, blow things up, okay? These guys are all worth, in today's dollars, billions of dollars in today's value compared to where they were back then. Now let me put a caveat to this.
All right.
Now this is 1918, so you imagine a few years before that what they were worth. And so what they did is they put their money in trusts, okay?
All right.
And so that it would never be taxed and never be touched. Now that leads me to a story. Here's an example. In 103 years ago, 1913, again 102 years ago, whenever, your great-great Uncle Charlie left you $20. Now that was a lot of money back in 1911, 1912.
That could easily be your rent.
Right. Now, Uncle Charlie put it in a trust for you, and it earned an average of 20% compounded rate of return for 103 years.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Uncle Charlie.
So that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And now, today, here's the money, and how much do you think there would be today?
I knew math was showing up at some point with this. How much would,
$2.86 billion.
from that 20?
From $20 compounded at 20% for 103 years, $2.86 billion. Now the IRS immediately says, "Whoa!
I was gonna say,
we haven't taxed this money.
Yeah.
So we're going to tax this money, and all the way back to the original, which renders that $2.86 billion to today's value of $366,000.
It all went away
tax
real
revenue
quick.
to the government, the
Right.
total, remember they taxed it from the beginning all the way to today.
Yeah.
The total revenue of the government's $366,000. Now wait a minute, what happened to all the $2.8 billion?
Yeah, that jumped
It was
way
never,
down.
It was never created. Now that brings me
It
to
was
the,
never created because it just sat
it was
in a
taken out.
trust.
No, it was taken out of the market when the government confiscated it. What did the government create or produce? Nothing. Nothing. They just spend the money.
Yeah.
So now the idea, and what I want to do is I want to show you logically how stupid our politicians are, and prove, absolutely prove, they do not work for us. Okay? Because if we take the tax rate from 50 and I drop it to 25,
All right.
now you end up with a couple of $1 million, and the IRS gets a couple of $1 million. Remember, the revenue of the government also is affected by this.
Yes.
So the ideal tax, long story short, the ideal tax is around 10, 11%.
Just
Steve
straight
Forbes
across
has
the
talked
board.
about a flat tax for
Yeah.
years, and that renders you with several $100 million, and the government's revenue is several $100 million. Now, here's the stupidity of that, if you get my meaning.
Okay.
Because these idiots in Washington, and I don't mince any words, I would say more, but you wouldn't allow me to say them.
No, I know what you're
But
thinking.
I have come to the conclusion that they don't want to know. They have a mindset of maintaining their eliteness in Washington, D.C., and anybody that goes there to try to be, what was the Jimmy Stewart movie that goes to Washington?
Mr. Something Goes to Washington.
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith Goes to
Mr.
Washington.
Smith goes to Washington. He wanted to change everything.
Right.
And we have seen that happen time after time after time in people that are elected into a position, and they go to Washington, and all of a sudden they are woked. Yeah, their wokeness takes over.
Right.
Because they're one cog in a wheel of 400 and some. We did that a few months ago. That story of the guy from the Miami Sentinel did a story about we are completely controlled by a total of 500 and some people. That's all the government, and they make all the decisions and control everything. And until we as a society stand up and make a big enough noise to stop the confiscation, because that's really what's going on. Now here's the kicker, and this is the conspiracy theory side.
Cool.
Let me say this.
Cool.
Is that all of these people that were this wealthy back before the Federal Reserve was created.
Right, that list
They wanted to protect their wealth, so they created trusts. Now, I've done estate planning for people. That's still a viable thing today. We create trusts to put the money in and do that. Same way, here's an example. The Clintons and this foundation that they have was hundreds of millions of dollars. It was never taxed.
Because it was a
because
trust.
it was a trust. But who were the administrators? The Clintons.
Yeah.
Well, didn't they derive their salary, whatever they wanted it to be? So they got. You get the idea.
It was basically their slush fund to do with what they will
and avoid taxes
and not pay taxes on it.
So these wealthy people, I believe, a bunch of them got together and said, "Look, let's do this trust thing." And then the IRS, the Federal Reserve came along. The IRS was created and taxes and everything, and they said, "Well, look, this tax thing, this will prevent anybody in the future from ever having the kind of wealth that we created." Think about that. Now the Rockefellers.
So we're going to set this up. We're going to be the
gonna
haves,
set it up.
and we're always going to be the haves.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And no one else can do it because
because of the
changed it.
taxes.
Yeah.
Because what are the taxes? If you go back in the history of the tax code, in the 1920s and 30s and that, the tax rate was 90%.
Ooh.
Ronald Reagan, 1951, in his memoirs, he wrote a story of when he became a conservative, a Republican. He made a movie called Bonzo Goes to Washington. We've all heard of that movie. They made a big joke out of it when he was a president.
Because Bonzo
But he was
went to
the
Washington.
first actor in Hollywood to actually earn $1 million paycheck. So he went down to the paymaster's office on the lot to get his check. And the check had $900,000 withholding.
Wow.
Now, Eddie, what would that do to you? Would you change your politics?
I would have to believe there's a better way to go about it, that you're taking that much out, and you've got the Rockefellers where none of their stuff got taken out because the rules
They're
are
all in
different
trusts.
Yeah.
They're in. You get the idea.
Go get some Rockefeller money.
So this revelation that I have come to recently led me to thinking about the Great Conspiracy. And that let's start with pensions, because over the last several weeks, my new format for my Facebook Live is on Monday. I talk about what I'm going to talk about on Wednesday, and Wednesday is Truth Day.
Okay.
Wednesday, I bring up calculators and absolutely mathematically prove my concepts, my thoughts, and what I'm saying.
That's what Leonard said earlier. When it's done correctly, math is correct.
It is.
Yeah.
The only difference between typical financial planning and what I do is really macroeconomic. In other words, it has to be broad. You can't look micro at this one thing and get the true answer. Just like the 401k, it grew to $1 million, but after you depreciated the money because of depreciation and inflation, and then take the tax off, well, the guy started with $300,000 in Leonard's example,
right?
And his net present purchasing power after tax was a little more than $400,000. That wasn't 6% rate of return?
Has the information that we're talking about become more available over the last 10 years, or has it always been there and just people are too busy doing their daily thing?
I want you to hold that question, because I know we got to go to a break. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and wrap it up, and I will answer that question.
Okay.
And we're going to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
When Tom's here, it's Tom's show, and I love that. It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
The best of Beaver County is easy to discover. It's right here on your radio. Tune in this and every Thursday from 11 to 11:30 for the best of Beaver County, presented by St. Barnabas. The show is hosted by Mike Romai and is dedicated to shining light on great things going on right here in your neighborhood and the people that are making it happen. This Thursday, enjoy conversation and insight from an intriguing lineup of guests that are creating excitement and having an impact right here in Beaver County. The best of Beaver County is presented by St. Barnabas. The radio broadcast will also be replayed each week from 11:30 to noon on Sundays on Beaver County Radio. It's your chance to encounter the best of Beaver County with new show host Mike Romai this Thursday starting at 11. For more information, visit beavercountyradio.com/the best of Beaver County.
Highmark Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and Allegheny Health Network are pleased to present a new show on Beaver County Radio called Heroes. Tune in every Saturday at 10 and Sunday at 12:30 for Heroes, a wonderful half-hour segment hosted by Jim Roddy that profiles many of the local heroes in this community. Click highmark.com for more information and then tune in for Heroes this Saturday at 10 and again Sunday at 12:30 on WBVP, WMBA, and 99.3 FM.
Hi, this is Tom Young from First Consultants, Inc. Have you ever heard the phrase, you can't take it with you when you die? Of course you have. Believe it or not, nothing can be further from the truth. Everyone has economic human life value. That value based on what we do and what we earn annually for a lifetime. We all know that the next generations of our family are going to need a tremendous amount of money to circumvent the government and the problems that they have left us for our future. Life insurance creates this money for pennies. Many times it can be created with no additional out-of-pocket cost. You see, you do take it with you. You take it away from the future generations of your family. Give us a call at 724-728-6820 for a complimentary 45-minute discussion, or visit our website, firstconsultantsinc.com, or tune into our monthly multimedia simulcast and Facebook live stream video on the third Tuesday of each month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
All advisory services are offered through Prosperity Economics Partners, LLC, a federally registered investment advisor. Prosperity Economics Partners, LLC is in no way affiliated with First Consultants, Inc., nor is First Consultants, Inc. a registered investment advisor.
About the education.
1230 WBVP 1460 WMBA 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas. It's Teleforum. I'm Eddy Crow. With me this first hour is Tom Young, and we're getting it all sorted out. The list of names you read, it's a series. It's the men who built America.
Right. That's where it come from.
So,
right.
But my question is, the rules are different now than they were back then because of trust. But how do more people not know this? How much of it is being actively not shared, and how much of it is we just ain't going to look for it?
Well,
or we're too busy in life?
No, it feeds into my conspiracy theory.
I know.
Because if we look at the financial world and what's going on, are we all on? Okay, you look puzzled. Okay, he's looking at you.
He always looks puzzled.
Oh, okay.
There we go. All right. My question was, how do we not know about this stuff that you talk about and Leonard talks about as a society? Is it our ignorance, or is it somebody else putting it down where we ain't supposed to see it?
It's the people. In other words, when we look at the wokeness of news media and how everything is controlled today,
yeah,
every company has an owner. In other words, there's a guy at the top.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's Fox News or any of the services, there's somebody at the top that's making the decisions.
Somebody that says do this.
And there's a billionaire somewhere that is, and that brings me to the billionaire lemming effect, and that's another story.
Yeah.
But to answer your question about the education, if you think of, you are programmed, Eddie, to think the way you think. And we are programmed by all of the noise and all the information that surrounds us every day. We all live in an atmosphere. I have an atmosphere that follows me everywhere I go. Mm-hmm. You have an atmosphere. And we've all experienced times where we were at a party or somewhere and we were somebody, I just don't want to be around them.
They invaded
his atmosphere actually stunk, They
invaded my atmosphere.
That's right. So we have to understand that. Well, that atmosphere is just like we're sitting here, and how many electrons are moving around us, Eddie? Where we're sitting here, wireless. I'm on live here, wireless, and you're
wireless here, wireless here, wireless
so
with the microphones. Yeah.
I believe that somehow that affects our brain. Now we know that people aluminum foil on the head, and what you got to do is maybe not aluminum foil, but you have to stop listening to advertisements.
You have to recognize that you're being programmed.
You're being because we think the way we think because we heard something enough times. Right. A lie told often enough is easily believed. The truth is hard to believe. Mm-hmm. We all know that. That's a common statement.
Mark Twain, it's easier to fool someone than to convince them that they've been fooled.
I just try this guy's Will Rogers, great philosopher, American philosopher.
Right.
It isn't so much what a person knows that's bad; it's what the person thinks they know that just ain't so.
Yeah.
And that says it all in that equation. So we are all programmed to think the way the financial world. How many dollars a year, Eddie? You're in the communications business.
Yeah.
Here's some research for you to talk about on your show. And I know you talk about the stuff I talk about on your show.
Yeah.
But how much money is spent annually by all of these financial world in advertising to get you to think the way they want you to think? It's in the tens of billion. Grade?
At least $5-10. Every stop set, which is a fancy media term for group of commercials. When they go to commercials, 3 or 4 commercials, and every stop set is going to have either a financial planning commercial or a medication commercial or both.
The medication commercial.
Yes.
The drug companies own the medical world.
Absolutely.
You know, they got a pill for everything.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're running out of time already? Oh, geez. Well, let me say this, folks. As we do this, I work hard every day to follow God's plan with my life, and I want to clean your glasses. I want to clean and polish and buff the scratches out of your glasses
That's a good
that are
analogy.
put there by all of this advertising and everything, and you need to make a decision to stop accepting the norm. And don't be afraid. I mean, I offer people, you have 45 minutes free. Come to my office, and I make you 2 promises. I won't ask you to buy anything, and I won't try to sell you anything, and there won't be a second meeting unless you desire it. But this information has got to be shared. Eddie, I think we're out of time.
Yeah.
And it has been a pleasure again.
I love
Merry
this.
Christmas, everybody. For a blessed New Year, a blessed Christmas as we celebrate the birthday of Jesus Christ, the greatest man to ever walk the earth. His impact in his 3 years in his ministry touched
Billions.
50% of the people in the world. There's been nobody like him, near him, even close. God
Tom.
bless you all.
Tom Young on Teleforum.
Hi, this is Tom Young from First Consultants Inc. Have you ever heard the phrase, you can't take it with you when you die? Of course you have. Believe it or not, nothing could be further from the truth. Everyone has economic human life value. That value based on what we do and what we earn annually for a lifetime. We all know that the next generations of our family are going to need a tremendous amount of money to circumvent the government and the problems that they have left us for our future. Life insurance creates this money for pennies. Many times it can be created with no additional out-of-pocket cost. You see, you do take it with you. You take it away from the future generations of your family. Give us a call at 724-728-6820 for a complimentary 45-minute discussion, or visit our website, firstconsultantsinc.com, or tune into our monthly multimedia simulcast and Facebook live stream video on the 3rd Tuesday of each month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
All advisory services are offered through Prosperity Economics Partners, LLC, a federally registered investment advisor. Prosperity Economics Partners, LLC is in no way affiliated with First Consultants, Inc., nor is First Consultants, Inc.